Please take your seats as we are getting started our next panel. Please, everybody, take your seats. Everyone, please take your seats as we begin our next panel. Thank you.
Everyone, please take your seats. Shh. I know some are going to the women's luncheon, but take your seats. Nothing is more important than how we deal with economic empowerment, from civil rights to civil rights. Let's bring out our panel that's going to discuss that. Let's bring them out. One of the major concerns that National Action Network has had in all of our chapters around the country is dealing with economic empowerment. Martin Luther King said that what good is it if we can integrate the lunch counter but can't afford the cup of coffee? What good is it that we have the ability to live in certain places but can't afford it and are really pushed out for those reasons that we're going to discuss here today? One of the things that concerns me as National Action Network embarked on dealing with a lot of the financial services and investments and those in our community that was handling that at a profit. Some were outperforming others in the field, but couldn't get the contracts, is that I was going to unions that had 70% Black and Latino members, but an all-white pension board, which means that this all-white board would decide to invest with people that in many cases were developers that were engaged in gentrification. So grandma's pension was paying for her own removal. That's a civil rights issue. So we began working in that area and other areas and challenging both unions and municipalities and states and the private sector that we're not asking for charity. If we get the right revenue into our businesses, they can take care of the charity we need in the community, Black and brown. The problem is we want parity in terms of how there's distribution of monies. So in that spirit, we brought some of our state and city controllers together to discuss this. Some have began making moves in this area, and some are committed to move forward. We thought to convene this and to moderate it. No one understood where we are better in this country and how our community of Black and browns intersect with that. As one that has been in the corporate world, that's been on the forefront of the move of this nation toward technological advancements that will be a major factor in the economy and how we play. and one who's been grounded and rooted in our community. And he is someone that I've come to know and respect. I tell him that every generation has someone that can be the thread and the convener and the one that kind of makes it all come together. In one generation, it was Vernon Jordan. I think that this brother has become that kind of force in our generation, and I'm glad and proud that he agreed to be the moderator for this panel. He is the co-founder and managing partner of Recognize. He's the chairman of the board for the Apollo Theater Foundation, and he's our friend, brother, and supporter at National Action Network. Welcome, Charles Phillips.
Thank you, Rev. Well, it's an honor to host a panel. The Rev has been working in this area for years, and some of you may not know, but some of the early black managers who got started in this business had an assist from Rev, and he's been with us all the way ever since, and he's been active in helping us get access to capital. So that's the reason I'm here, just to pay respects to Rev. Now, this panel is a unique panel. We have the all-stars in the pension management business. These are 5 very large states. At least by my math, there's almost $1 trillion of assets by these 5 men on the stage here. And so it's important what they say, and how they kind of deliver and talk about this influences every other state. So thank you, gentlemen, for doing this. I thought what we'd start with is just to give you a sense of let them each introduce themselves, and then a minute from each one of you on kind of the assets that you manage, and more importantly, the governance process. Some of you are sole trustees, some of you are not, just how you make decisions to get people oriented, and then we'll ask some questions from there. So we'll start with you, Eric.
Sure. So good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you. My name is Erick Russell. I am the state treasurer in Connecticut. I'm in the 4th year of my first term, my first elected office. In Connecticut, I serve as the principal fiduciary for our pension assets, about $70 billion in assets under management. I also serve as the elected CFO for the state, so I oversee cash and debt management, programs like unclaimed property, but a big priority for me is actually how are we also investing in the future? How are we investing in our communities and making sure that we're creating more opportunity for everyone in our state? And so we do a lot of work looking at programs to empower people, to make sure we're lifting folks up, that we are creating access to capital for businesses, but also wealth building in the state. And so really proud of the work that we've been able to do in Connecticut. We have a long track record in the state of not only black treasurers, but making sure that we continue to make sure that our capital aligns with our values as a state. And so I'm really proud of the work that we're able to continue in that effort.
Hi, Tom DiNapoli, very honored to be controller for the great state of New York. Yay, New York! Similar to Erick's responsibilities, I serve as Chief Fiscal Officer for New York State. And certainly in terms of our discussion this morning, managing the state's pension fund, we are one of the largest public pension funds in the country. We have 1.2 million members, retirees, and beneficiaries. After last month, we were down a little bit from what we were at the end of 2025, but we're about $295 billion, so we're one of the largest public pension funds in the country. And I'm very proud of the fact that we have also embarked on a very ambitious program over a number of years to provide more opportunities for emerging managers and for women and minority-owned firms, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that in specific. And then another key part of our responsibilities is serving as chief auditor for the state. So we do audits of not only state agencies and state public authorities, but local governments as well, all across New York. So that role of chief fiscal officer, sole fiduciary for the pension fund, and auditor are among our prime responsibilities.
Super.
Good afternoon, NAN. I'm Mark Levine, your New York City Comptroller, recently elected. Now, it's amazing how much people applaud for you when you sign their pension checks. Yeah. I love how that works. I'm going to sign all the NAN checks first, I promise. First, I want to say we have an amazing moderator. Do you know that Charles Phillips is completely renovating the Apollo Theater It's going to be newer and more modern and more beautiful than ever. Thank you, Charles, for that. When's the ribbon cutting, Charles?
I'm good.
No date yet.
When's the ribbon
Coming soon. Coming soon.
We don't
Also,
give a date yet.
we have so many great Democratic treasurers and comptrollers around America, including my big brother, Tom DiNapoli, and my new siblings, Erick and James. It's one of the bright spots of Democratic leadership. And collectively, blue states and blue cities, we manage over $3 trillion in assets. And that gives us real power to push back against the MAGA agenda, and we're going to talk about that. And I'm proud to be one big piece of that here in New York, overseeing our pension funds. We also manage our debt. We approve the contracts. We do auditing. We oversee wage enforcement and so much more. There's an equity agenda on every piece of this portfolio that I just mentioned, and we have an assertive program to ensure that the people who manage our pension funds look more like the people of New York City. We have work to do on that. I'm proud of the progress we've made. I'm going to talk more about that. I am so thrilled to be back here with NAN. There's no organization in America which understands better the fact that civil rights and economic justice are deeply connected. And I'm proud to be with you in this fight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to try my best not to lose my voice. My name is James Diossa. I'm the General Treasurer for the state of Rhode Island. I'm the first Latino treasurer in the state's history, so a big responsibility there. Thank you. We manage $13 billion of the state's retirement fund. I sit as the chair of the State Investment Commission, but we also see other programs in our office, like the College Bound Saver, Unclaimed Property, Crime Victims Compensation Fund, and many others. We also do bonding for the state, and we oversee the state's debt. So that's some of the responsibilities of my office. Thank you.
So, Comptroller DiNapoli, I want to start with you since you're the longest serving person on the slot here. You were a pioneer in allocating assets to black managers back in the day, and a lot of the black managers who are doing well now started because of that allocation. So one, how did you make that decision? Two, I know there's been some criticisms during this race on did you get the return? How did you make that decision? Was it the right decision for the pensioners? So maybe you can clear all that up now, because you started this, and I just want you to have your platform to talk about how you did it and the performance that they delivered for you.
Yeah, well, I have to say, when I first became controller, we had a lot of issues with how the pension fund was being managed. And I have to, as I've mentioned at prior NAN conventions, one of the first people who knocked on my door was Reverend Al Sharpton. And he said, you know, there's been a history in New York where the doors have been closed and opportunity has not been there for everyone, and certainly not for firms of color. So we made a commitment early on that we would launch an emerging manager and MWB strategy in all the major asset classes of our pension fund. So that's the public equities, the stocks you'd all be familiar with, private equity, real estate. Now we have infrastructure as well, fixed income. And I'm very pleased that it wasn't just me setting the tone at the top, as important as that was, but we had staff that absolutely were supportive of this approach and this strategy. The pension fund is managed by a professional staff, headed by a chief investment officer. During my tenure, I've hired 3 chief investment officers. All 3 were women. 2 of them were black women. I think that had a positive impact on the fund as well, I would say. And we have really stayed with that commitment to provide opportunity. Why? It's certainly the right thing to do, but the bottom line is it has helped our performance. When we have seeded emerging managers, they have, because they tend to be newer firms, largely women and minority, not exclusively, but they are hungry, out to prove themselves. They give us exposure to niche markets our more traditional relationships haven't had. And then when we have the opportunity to graduate them into the main part of the portfolio, we really benefit the fund, but also create wealth in the community as well. And so I'm very proud of the fact with our assets that are externally managed, 22% are being managed by women and minority-owned firms, because the results prove that diversity matters, diversity improves results, and that's why our commitment is to continue down this path. It takes a little work, but it's good work, and it helps secure the retirement for our 1.2 million New Yorkers who depend on our pension fund decisions.
It's fantastic. It's great. Right. Mark, I know you haven't been in the slot that long and you're still kind of filling out your staff, but you don't have a lot of diverse people around on your staff today. So is there a plan to change that? Do you think that actually affects your decisions on how you allocate capital? Do you need more diverse people around you?
I have a wonderful and diverse staff, actually. I'm very, very proud of them. And they are achieving incredible results. We now have $26 billion invested with minority and women-owned firms. You guys got to applaud for that. It's a big number. $26 billion. And there's a ranking now of the 1,000 pension funds in America. And New York City came in number 2 on assets allocated. And you know who number 1 was? He's sitting right next to me, Tom DiNapoli. So we're going to catch you, Tom. It's going to be a friendly competition. By the way, Connecticut and Rhode Island are doing great on this. They're smaller funds, so on a percentage basis, I'm sure they're going to brag about it. And we have run the numbers, and we have determined that our diverse managers are actually performing better than the sector as a whole. I want to say that again. Our diverse managers are performing better than the sector as a whole. So there is no contradiction here. Diversity and excellence go hand in hand in our fund management. So every one of our asset class leaders, when they're looking at private equity or the public markets or real estate, they are bringing diversity to the table. We want the widest possible pool of candidates. And if you are out there and you are building your firm, if you are a diverse manager, we want to get to know you. We have an open door. We want to meet you. And we do an annual conference every year for diverse and emerging managers. We had 1,000 people in February. We're going to do it again next year. We want you there. We want you to be part of this. I just want to say very quick something I said before. How we use our influence as owners of corporate America is very important. And with Trump and his crowd pressuring CEOs to abandon a commitment to DEI, it's very, very important that we, as pension funds in blue cities and blue states, push back and say very clearly that when any organization, when any company is more diverse, it is good for the public, and it is good business, and it is good for profits. Mm-hmm. We know that, and we are linking arms. We have a wonderful thing called the National Democratic Treasurers Association that brings us together, and we are combining forces to send this message. It's more important than ever. We have to flex our muscle. We have more than the red states. I guess we have better economic management than they do. And so we have to use that power to fight for our values. And we are in New York and in states around the country. Thank you.
So maybe, Eric, you can talk about it a little bit. It's been tougher to use some of the phrases we used to use, DI, emerging asset managers. How do you handle that? Have you changed your approach, the naming of it? And I know you have a lot of consultants that advise you as well. Can you talk about how you use them and leverage them, and how many of those are diverse?
Sure. So I would first say, and I think this was just touched on, right, that we know we're facing national headwinds when it comes to how we are talking about diverse managers, diverse consultants, folks that we work with. And the reality, we've been approached by some of the law firms we work with, we've been approached by some of the managers that we work with to say, let's change some of our language to avoid any potential conflict. And our response in Connecticut has been a very clear no. I'm not interested. I'm not interested in finessing language and avoiding a fight. I think, frankly, the reason that we've gotten into this place as a whole is that some of the largest law firms in the world have folded on their DEI initiatives before there was a real fight, which sent a message to every other law firm that they couldn't step into it. We've seen some of the biggest institutions fold on this commitment. And what we've actually done during this time is expand, we call it our CI3 program, but it's our Diverse and Emerging Managers program, with the same language, but also building it out even further to make sure that we're able to graduate more managers and invest directly with diverse and emerging managers in the state. And so, I would say that's the first piece of it. I'm proud of our record. As I mentioned, we have a long legacy in Connecticut of really leading on this front. And it's because we've had decades of black Democratic treasurers in the state that were pushing back and really starting this in a time where it was even more difficult. And The other reason I'm not interested in changing language is that it sends the signal that the reason we have these programs is for anything other than performance, right? We know statistically that our diverse managers have outperformed many others. And so the idea that we're going to change language to make people comfortable is just not going to happen. So we have about 20 billion in assets under management from diverse managers. We still have work to do. That's across every asset class. We're building out more of our private asset classes through our CI3 program. But as was mentioned, the way we really do this is by the collective power of all of our offices. So we work closely around this issue, but also making sure that companies and managers that we're working with have sound labor practices, that they're doing right by their employees, that they're doing right by the climate. Understanding that these are important for our communities, but it's also about making sure that we're able to maximize our long-term performance and returns on behalf of the state employees and teachers that we all represent.
That's great. You all have a lot of power to allocate capital in different ways that help the community. You know, for New York City, there's the ETI program where you can actually participate and build affordable housing, for instance. So it'd be good to hear, like, from a community impact, are things like that underway today, and kind of what's your vision going forward? I just open for the panel because it's slightly different for everybody.
Could you repeat the question, Charles? We had a hard time.
Can you build affordable housing with your fund? In other words, and things like that. You have a program under the state law where you can allocate a certain amount for local impact. And so I'm just wondering if you're doing that, called the ETI program.
Yeah. So, you know, one of the biggest issues of our time, I think not only in Rhode Island, but the whole country, is housing. And one of the things that Treasury did that was very creative is use our local deposit program to work with local institutions to create affordable mortgages for people who otherwise couldn't participate in this local or this economy at the moment. And so what we did was we talked to a few institutions that we deposited our Treasury money in, and we asked them to commit to 30-year mortgage rates of about 3.99. Really looked at the affordable issue, so we looked at credit scores, no private mortgage insurance, and it was unbelievable the amount of buying power that gave the other, folks who otherwise wouldn't qualify for a traditional mortgage today. So we use the power of the office to help get people into their first homes. We know how important that is for generational wealth, and we announced that program early December last year, and within a month, $30 million was quickly absorbed. And so we're rolling out a second program at the end of this month to continue helping people.
All right. So I'm happy to jump in. So we don't have a housing-specific program. We invest in affordable housing, but it's broader than just in our state. We are exploring some ways because in Connecticut it is a huge issue, and I think it's the biggest kind of economic issue and issue around affordability in our state. We have leveraged dollars that we manage on our short-term investment fund, for example, to get lower cost capital through a community bank and credit union initiative that's about making sure that our local banks can actually get capital out, whether it's someone starting a small business or someone trying to get a car loan that may not have as strong of a credit score, but to try to have those resources there. But what I also think is important is that all of us are also leveraging our offices past just our pension dollars. And so, as I mentioned earlier, always thinking about how we are creating more economic opportunity. And so in Connecticut, for example, we launched a first-in-the-nation Connecticut baby bonds program that is about addressing wealth inequality in Connecticut. We're one of the wealthiest states in the country, but have one of the largest wealth gaps. And so starting on July 1st of 2023, every child that's born into poverty in Connecticut, if their birth is covered by Husky, we automatically designate $3,200 in a trust account for that child. And we invest those funds alongside our pension dollars, and when that child is between the ages of 18 and 30, they can access those funds for wealth building purposes, for building, buying a house in Connecticut, starting or investing in a Connecticut business, helping to pay for post-secondary education or job training, or they can roll that into a retirement savings account. And so this is about, just to put that in perspective, about 45% of the kids that are born in Connecticut every year are born into poverty. And so this is going to be resources that they have that are going to be reinvested back in our communities to really lift people up and create more opportunity.
Charles, can I just say briefly?
No, go.
Applaud more for Eric, because what he said was very good. I didn't mean to interrupt that. Scholarships, essentially, for every kid born there. We got to do that in New York. We have 300+ billion in assets in New York City's pension fund. It is invested all over the world, literally all over the world. We need to invest more of that money in the 5 boroughs of New York City, and we're going to. And we have a program we call Economically Targeted Investments, ETIs, that allow us to invest that money in the 5 boroughs of New York City, and everything from healthcare to green technology to, most importantly, affordable housing, at a time when that is a total crisis in the city. So we're going to be moving billions of dollars into building and financing affordable homes for the people of the city in all 5 boroughs. We expect to have news on this coming soon. This was the top issue I ran on. We're going to make it happen in New York. That money needs to and it will be invested in housing in New York City.
And just to wrap it up, it's similar to what my colleagues have been saying. In New York, we all have a number of programs also that are targeted for community enhancement, right, all across New York State. So we do invest in a number of housing programs, and certainly we've been in conversation with Mark Levine to see how we can partner to deal with the issue of affordable and workforce housing more aggressively in our own state. We also have programs targeted to small business development. And there are 2 funds we now work with. One is an African-American firm, the other is a Hispanic firm. And the mandate is to invest in small businesses in underserved communities. So we're looking to expand those kinds of opportunities. I think that's an important place for us to go and to continue to have a priority. We also have, similar to what Mark Levine just mentioned, again, we're the state, not just the city, we have what we call our in-state private equity investment program, where we do invest in startups, expanding businesses relocating to New York. We now have about $2.7 billion committed to that program, so it helps to create jobs and retain jobs all across the state. So we're always looking for more opportunities to not just make money for the fund, which obviously is our first priority, but to recycle as much of these pension fund dollars right back into the New York State economy to uplift all communities. One other thing I just want to mention, and I think it's important to be said, as all of the panelists have said, our experience in investing with diverse managers produce excellent results, and in many cases better results than some of the traditional relationships. But that being said, this money is not a giveaway. If we have a relationship with a diverse manager and performance is an issue, then we move on to another diverse manager, right? So I think it's important for what we're saying to be viewed not as we're just doing this as a favor. We're doing this to benefit the bottom line so our pensioners can be sure that they have retirement security. But the results show that by casting a net as widely as possible and having relationships with funds and with managers that haven't had the opportunity, we get better performance. But it doesn't mean anybody gets a free ride. Excellence is just as important, and diverse managers provide excellent opportunity, excellent results.
Fair enough. We have some young financial professionals in the audience who are working for various private equity firms, hedge funds, thinking about starting their own fund, but it's hard for them to do that without that first allocation. What would your advice be to someone sitting in the audience? I'd love to start a firm, but it's hard to leave where I am without some allocation, some support. Do you have any best practices or recommendations for someone listening right now?
Well, I would say talk to us. I mean, you know, we have dedicated staff, and Sylvester McLaren is here somewhere in the audience, so you should get his card if you're one of those. He has his fan club there. There he is right there. We have dedicated staff. This is part of why the programs work well for us. So not only do we have our different portfolio managers that believe in what we're doing, we have dedicated staff that focus just on emerging managers and MWBEs. And so it's about relationships, right? That's what it always is about. So reach out to us, talk to us. We will give you advice on how to get to first base and having a conversation. Parallel to what City Controller Mark Levine said, we also have had our annual, we're up to our 19th Emerging Manager MWB Conference. We do it now in the same week to give more opportunity with New York City, New York State, state insurance, and Texas teachers, I think, also were part of it. So we have this week in February going into Black Puerto Rican Caucus, Hispanic Caucus weekend, where there is a critical mass of not only our staffs, but of our investment managers, the partners who manage our money. Those are the people you need to make the connection with and develop the relationship. But we view our role as not only giving information, but serving as a mentor. And I think that's very, very important. But it just takes a phone call and a meeting and a conversation. That's the best way to get started.
Charles, can I just say very quickly, if you are thinking of starting a fund, any of you out here, if you're somewhere in the process to become a fund manager, we want to get to know you. We have an open door, and I want to ask the woman who leads our diverse and emerging manager program, Taffy Ayodele, to stand up. I think she's in the front row. There she is. Talk to Taffy. We want to hear from you. Come to our conference next year. We already have the date. It might not be quite as cool as the NAN conference, but it's right up there. And we had 1,000 people last year. It's going to be February 10th, 2027 in Battery Park City. So if you are even remotely thinking about breaking into this business as a fund manager, come to the conference, meet your peers, meet our team. We want to work with you. Thank you.
Erick?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I think the communication piece of it is important. And I would say, as we talk about our program like CI3 that I know is similar here in New York, the reason for the creation of that program is being able to access managers earlier on in their process, right? One of the most difficult things in starting a firm is that you don't have a track record, so it's hard to get people to invest with you, right? And what you're looking to raise is usually too small for pension funds like us to invest in directly. And so the whole goal of our CI3 program is to be able to access talent, good strategies, niche markets early, to invest in those managers to help people get off the ground. And our goal is to build and work with managers and develop those partnerships through the CI3 program until we can invest directly at scale. And so I think just the relationship building, really looking into these programs, understanding where you could fit in and be additive. We use a manager of managers program for our CI3 program, so building relationships with those managers that we work with depending on asset class, so that ultimately we can help develop over time, which benefits smaller growing managers as well as our fund from a performance perspective.
Well, these are all leaders in finance that have very busy schedules, so thank you for coming. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm down here a lot, so I appreciate it.
They didn't tell me to take
Let us please thank the panel again for this great conversation. Please do not rush to the front. We have another panel. Again, please do not rush to the front. We have another conversation coming. Thank you. Please take your seats. Please take your seats. We have remarks coming. Please take your seats. 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 The program has to continue. Please take your seats. The program has to continue. Please take your seats. please take your seats as we have remarks coming at this time. Everyone, please take your seats. Please welcome to bring remarks Alfonso David, President and CEO of Global Black Economic Forum. Let's give him a hand.
Hello, everyone. It is an honor to be with all of you. First, I want to thank the National Action Network for this invitation, and to the Reverend Al Sharpton, thank you for your voice, your courage, and your consistency over the past several decades. Now, we don't take for granted what it means to have leadership that actually shows up, leadership that actually speaks out, and leadership that stays in the fight. So, Reverend Sharpton, thank you for that. And also, congratulations to the new House of Justice headquarters in Harlem. This is not just a building, it's really an infrastructure for our movement. As you heard, my name is Alfonso David. I am a civil rights attorney. I'm also the president and the CEO of the Global Black Economic Forum. And at the forum, we are focused on advancing economic opportunity across 4 key areas: the future of work, the future of wealth, the future of health, and the future of our democracy. We are preparing for one of the most significant and, in fact, the largest convening at this year's Essence Festival of Culture. So if all of you are coming, we look forward to hosting you. We will be talking and engaging with leaders and entrepreneurs and advocates, focusing on how do we move from conversation to action. Now, for today, I want to begin with a truth that I shared on this very stage last year. I came last year and I warned all of you that we were entering into a period of targeted attacks on black businesses, particularly in public contracting. I said that what we were witnessing was not episodic, it was in fact coordinated, it was strategic, and it was rooted in a broader effort to reshape who has access to economic power and who does not. And last year, we announced that the Global Black Economic Forum had a report on diverse businesses and contracting, because we understood what's at stake. Unfortunately, the warning has become real. The president issued an executive order about a week and a half ago targeting diversity, equity, and inclusion in federal contracting. And I want to be clear and grounded in what this means, not just for the business leaders that are out there, but what it means for all of us. And let me just be precise. The executive order does not explicitly bar black and brown businesses from participating in federal contracting. What it does, it introduces ambiguity. And what it does so by increasing risk or the perception of risk for businesses to work with black businesses. It requires companies to certify that they are not engaging in what the administration calls racially discriminatory DEI practices. Now, nobody knows what that really means. It's not defined in the executive order. What the goal is to scare people from working with us, to scare people from hiring black businesses, to scare people from working with brown businesses. So what happens? Companies could actually pull back. They could stop negotiating with black and brown businesses. They could try to cancel contracts. This is not because the law has changed. The law hasn't changed. This is not because black and brown businesses are not qualified. They're more than qualified. This is because the administration wants to create uncertainty. And when you create uncertainty, you create fear. And then fear drives behavior. That is the movie that they're playing. Just so we're all clear on what we're watching. And when behavior shifts, opportunity shifts. So just make this real. Federal contracting is about how much you think. How much money do you think the federal government spends every year? Okay, so we're in the right ballpark, billions. $770 billion every year. $770 billion, and approximately 46 of the $770 billion, 46 of that flows through minority businesses. So sit with that for a minute. You have $770 billion that the federal government is spending. $46 billion goes to black and brown businesses. And this executive order is looking to remove that, to take away the $46 billion that are going to black and brown businesses. And again, this is not because the law has changed. This is not because Congress has passed a new resolution. This is because the administration wants to signal to other businesses not to work with us. Now, let's think about who's affected. The contractor who employs people in our very communities. It's the small business that is finally scaling. It's the entrepreneur who has navigated barrier after barrier after barrier, and they're winning. And now they could start losing. And when contracts are pulled back, jobs are lost. When jobs are lost, communities are destabilized. When communities are destabilized, we will all feel it. So when we talk about federal contracting, I want to make sure that we understand this is about us. Even if you don't have a business, this is about all of us. This is a part of a broader pattern. We're seeing lawsuits against institutions that support diversity. We're seeing efforts to redefine inclusion as exclusion. We're seeing opportunities to sort of redefine equity as discrimination. And at the same time, we're seeing public contracts and public contracting under risk. So some of you may not know this, but I took on a recent lawsuit. In Texas, there's a program called the Historically Underutilized Business Program. It's called the HUB program. It has been in existence for more than 35 years. And in Texas, what they did was to create a program. We have a similar program here in New York. Create a program to create opportunities for people of color and for women, because for decades they have been excluded from contracting opportunities. Well, guess what happened? The Comptroller in Texas decided to issue a regulation and remove businesses that are owned by women and businesses that are owned by people of color from the program. So every single business that is owned by a woman, every single business that is owned by a person of color, he sought to remove them from the program. More than 16,000 businesses are affected. 16,000. So what are we going to do? We're not going to sit back. We sued them. We're not going to allow this to happen. We have fought too long and too hard to make sure that black and brown businesses have a seat at the table. So we have filed a landmark lawsuit in Texas against the Comptroller and against 5 other state agencies for violating the law. Because remember, the Comptroller is not a part of the legislature. The Comptroller can't just simply rewrite the law. You have to go back to the legislature. And in Texas, the legislature rejected any attempts to change the law. So we are now suing the Comptroller and all of the agencies that are violating the law. Now, lawsuits are a part of our response, but advocacy is also a part of our response, and that's where all of you come in. We have to be disciplined about how we use our economic power, and I'm going to ask you to do 2 things. We cannot separate our values from our spending. You have values. All of you in this room have values. Don't separate it from your pocketbook. If a company does not respect our communities, we should not support that company. If a business chooses to retreat from equity, we should reevaluate that company. If a business chooses to retreat from equity, redefine it. They're not quite sure what it is. We can say we're not quite sure if we want to spend our money with you. And markets respond to incentives. And we have the ability to shape those incentives. So that's the first thing I ask you to continue doing. Make sure that your values are aligned with your behavior. The second is I hope that we will continue to show up. Show up for each other. Show up for the business, show up for the bodega. Show up for the local business. When you need a plumber, when you need dry cleaners, think about who you're going to. Think about where you're spending your business and make sure we're showing up for each other. I want to close by saying this. The president has issued a lot of executive orders. And what you will often not hear in the press, executive orders are not laws. The president cannot issue a law. Only Congress and the legislature can pass the law. Now, the president can issue executive orders anytime he wants, but those executive orders have to comply with statutes and they have to comply with the Constitution. That is why you're seeing all of these lawsuits. So remember, every time you hear in the press, oh, the president has issued an executive order, your first thought should be, well, that's nice, but the executive order doesn't change the law. This moment is not about confusion, it's about control. And is about who has access to opportunity and who does not. So as we think about the next steps, as we think about showing up for our communities, as we think about making sure we're separating the noise from the facts, understand that change will not wait for us to be comfortable. It requires us to be clear, to be resilient, and to be purposeful. And to think about this moment, please remember that leadership is not simply about managing a transition. It's about inspiring it. We are supposed to be inspiring the transition that we want to see. It's about positioning ourselves in alignment with our values. Once again, that word, our values, that will outlast the noise of this moment. It's about recognizing our collective strength, our networks, our voices, and our commitment. And we can make sure we are redefining what justice and opportunity looks like for generations yet to come. Now, you all know this. Let's remember that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Now, let's act like it. Thank you.
Hello, 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 hello. So family, NAN family, I am here to introduce us today because we all need to know when there are champions out there fighting for us. And so the man that is about to speak is indeed that human. He has been out there advocating for equity for us in finance and creating a playing field so that we can have more opportunity and inclusion in the financial sector. Jacob Waltauer is the CEO of Blueprint Capital. And so we are going to hear from him next, and I want us to give him a huge NAN resounding applause and welcome.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You're my sister, and you know, she's one of those people I can reach at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning when I need advice, and there's nobody better in the game of PR than Rachel Nordlinger. Let me first say thank you to Reverend Sharpton, National Action Network, and to all of you. It's truly an honor for me to be here on this stage. And when I say it's an honor, it means that I have to get a little bit personal, because the zip code that I was born in, the family that I was born into, never would have dictated that I would be on this stage. I was born to Barbara and Jacob Waltauer. Barbara had an 11th grade education, and Jacob had a 7th grade education. And they met each other, fell in love, married, had 3 wonderful children, put them all through college through their hard work, ultimately one day decided to start their own business